Everyone seems to have financial tips for you. Your brother-in-law, the online stock pundit, the gold infomercial, and even the guy behind the deli counter. Everybody wants to tell you what you should do with your money. I'm Patrice Sikora with Zach Binzer and Rachel Rasmussen of Foster and Motley. Zach and Rachel, thanks for being here to help explain how to deal with all this advice. Zach, of course, it's always the success stories we hear, too.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Patrice. I kind of liken it to the horse gambler who always tells you he picked the perfect trifecta on a race, but doesn't tell you that he's took 50 races to get there. So a lot of investors do the same thing. They tell you about all their winners, but they fail to mention the decisions they made that maybe didn't play out according to plan. So when we hear people giving us financial advice, we really recommend that listeners consider the source of that financial advice. Are they credentialed advisors, and what their motivation is? Is it in the media where they're trying to get eyeballs or listeners or viewers? Is it commercials that are actively trying to sell something? Or is it friends and family where maybe our guard is a little bit lower and truly the perception is they just care about us and want us to participate in the good along with them? So it takes a lot of awareness and discernment to understand the motivation of the person.
Especially thinking about their intent. And Zach, you know me, I love a good recommendation. I love giving a recommendation. Oh, check out this restaurant. You need a haircut? You need a place to get your jeans hemmed? I got you. A lot of people give recommendations from a really good place, which is a place to help others and, when they might be looking for a little bit of advice. So I think the first step is kind of understanding what is the intent? What are they trying to achieve? And sometimes that intent isn't so good. Are they trying to sell you something, gain your trust, or are they just being friendly and simply trying to share information? So, kind of knowing where they're coming from can really help you gauge the credibility of the information and how you might perceive that information and translate that to your own life. Are they a fiduciary? Is it coming from a place where they're on the same side of the table as you, legal obligation to work in your best interest? Or do they have an agenda? As Zach said, people like to talk about their winners. And of course, they only want to tell you about the things that have worked out for themselves. And they're kind of missing a little bit of the background of your own situation. And how does it pertain to you? You can have the gamut. Someone really coming from a good place and saying, oh, I heard about this stock or this strategy. Why don't you think about it for yourself? Or it could be even a scammer calling you on the phone and trying to get you to buy some uh, Visa gift cards or whatnot. So putting that intent into perspective really is a good place to start.
And then you hear these stories, you think, oh, that sounds so good. Yes, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, but I got to get in on this because I could miss it.
Yeah, the FOMO is real, right? Especially when we think, our buddies at the golf course or our friends at the cocktail party are all going to participate and all going to be celebrating a year from now, and you're going to be left on the outside looking in on, buying the lottery ticket alongside with them. So it's important to understand the speaker's knowledge of the subject matter. So, is it someone whose advisor gave them a good tip and they went along with it? And, maybe they should be sharing who their advisor is more than who the investment itself might be. If you think about, highly intelligent people on the surface, doctors, engineers, they have expertise in very specific fields, but being a brain surgeon doesn't necessarily make you great at financial investments, or being an engineer may mean you're really good at crunching numbers, but that's more on the structural integrity of a bridge or project management or modeling things like building a skyscraper. But how does that translate to financial investments? How does that translate more specifically to you and your personal financial plan for your family?
We call that the halo effect. If you're really a golden person in a certain subject matter, we think that that should translate to being a jack of all trades. But we know the second part of that, master of none. No, just kidding. Um, but Zach, I think you bring up a good point. What is their knowledge of the subject matter? But then reflecting it back on your own situation and listening and being respectful and hearing their point of view, but also comparing it to its relevance to your own goals. Evaluate whether that information is in line with where you're trying to get, what your unique circumstances are, what you're motivated by. Maybe having the big house isn't the important thing for you. Maybe you have other goals like saving for your kids' education or charitable intent, whatever. Not all financial advice is applicable to you. It's always good to kind of run that through a filter because, we all have our own tolerance for risk, ability to take risk. Maybe you're at a different set of circumstances there. What's your tax rate? The tax implications are pretty huge. And your brother in law's not going to know it, or maybe shouldn't know it about yourself. Where you are in your life, something that's applicable to someone further along in their career might not be applicable to you in starting out. It depends on your situation. So a few examples on this. We think back to 2020 and the biotech and the SPACs were all the rage, and a lot of people wanted to get in on that, and they had that FOMO, the fear of missing out on the next deal. And some people really couldn't afford to take that kind of risk. Sure, you bet a few things, but if you put your life savings on it, you can really set yourself back years and years and years. So, and and on the flip side, another example being, um, is that person trying to sell you a product like, say, an annuity or a whole life policy? Well, in some unique circumstances, maybe that is a good idea, but maybe for you, you don't need to do that. You're going to end up paying more fees than you really think you should or need to. So each example, we have to kind of put through that lens. How is this advice relevant to me?
It sounds to me like you're saying simply be disciplined. Think things through. You've got a plan. Stick to the plan.
I think that's
Mhm.
exactly right, Patrice. We don't want to be rude, right? So, active listening, maintaining your relationships with these people, especially if they're personal friends, family, loved ones. So you can be compassionate, you can listen attentively, you can ask intelligent questions, but I like the caveat of, hey, thanks for, sharing this idea with me. Could you send me more information, maybe electronically, if you have a prospectus or something like that? I'd love to review that with my financial advisor and see if it's a fit for me. And what that does then is allow you to participate, show interest, but then also gives you the outlet to say, I need to vet this out with those people who are looking out for me, and who have the intimate details, to Rachel's point earlier. What is my tax situation? What are my financial goals? What is my point in my financial journey? Am I still in growth and accumulation mode? Am I retired and trying to reduce risk and volatility? How does this investment fit into that point in my journey? And so, you know, saying I would love to have more information, but please give me the space to review this with my financial advisor, I think is a great way to kind of segue out of that without making commitment right there and then on the golf course, in the cocktail party, at the lunch, at the family reunion.
I like that idea a lot, Zach. I think it puts you on the same side of the person, the advice giver, instead of arguing back and forth. Well, that wouldn't work for me. Here's why. And then they feel like they have to convince you of something. It says, I would like to learn more about that. Just staying curious and staying open about it, but while not committing to anything, if you
I think
will.
there's a reciprocal opportunity too. If this is something that your brother-in-law's coworker is telling him about and sent him the information, and then you ask for it and you vet it out with your advisor, maybe your advisor identifies a major Achilles heel or a major risk factor, then you can share that back to your brother-in-law and maybe help him avoid a tragic mistake as well.
Speaking of the advisor, well, let me take it from the other side. You shouldn't be ashamed to bring an idea to your advisor, should you?
Of course not. I mean, that's the relationship that Zach and I on in these chairs really enjoy, because instead of just making a gut check, a quick reaction, it's a dialogue, and it also helps us understand the client better. What is important to them? What are their fears? What are their motivators? So there's no issue at all with opening up that dialogue and asking those questions. So you definitely shouldn't feel embarrassed. That's what you pay an advisor to do. Give you advice, help you filter, help you figure out how it does or does not apply to you. Because hey, sometimes it does and it's worth exploring. That's just the hallmark, in my opinion, of a really good relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I like to tell clients if you're making a financial decision, I'd love to be a part of that conversation. If it feels small, do I buy a car? Do I lease a car? On up to, hey, my brother's and asking me to invest $200,000 in this investment. What do you think? And I think we highlight that our relationship with clients is a partnership, and so we have tried and true strategies that we try to affect for all clients, customized to their situation. But it doesn't hurt for them to bring that new opportunity to our attention. Let us do some due diligence on their behalf for a couple of reasons. One, it might be a good fit for them. Two, we could help facilitate next steps. Or three, we could identify some pitfalls and make sure that they understand the risks they're taking before they decide to move forward. But I also take away the awareness that, hey, they're interested in this type of investment or this type, is it biotech? Is it private real estate? Is it an apartment building? And then if we identify, hey, you're interested here, maybe this isn't the right vehicle, but then our team can go and possibly source a better positioned investment in that space to help our client fulfill that goal or that intention um, in their financial plan.
A lot of what I hear you both saying is keep the emotion out of this.
Oh, yeah. Keep the emotion out of it. Try to eliminate emotional decision making. Figure out how it's relevant to you. As the great sage Warren Buffett said, you don't want to be a no emotion person in all of your life, but you definitely want to be a no emotion person when making an investment or a business decision. So take that as you will.
Yeah, I'll complement that one with Benjamin Graham had the quote, the investor's chief problem and even his worst enemy is likely to be himself. Meaning emotional investing can lead us into some rabbit holes, some dark spots, some places we did not intend to get. And so if we can work with our team, our advisors, those we've hired to have our best interest on their minds, and then remain disciplined, remain unemotional, think things through and act deliberately, we tend to get to a better spot and a better outcome.
All right. You've hit a lot here. Zach, Rachel, is there anything we didn't touch on that you think we should?
I think at the end of the day, call your people, call your team. We're happy to help. It's coming all from a good place, and let's do it together.
And how can people reach you?
They can give us a call at 513-561-6640 or reach us online at fosterandmotley.com.
All right, so while you can politely nod your head while Uncle Charlie is imbuing his so-called advice at the party, stay the course, your course. If you have questions, call the folks at Foster and Motley, and be sure to follow and share this podcast. We value your time, and thanks for being with us.